Hello everyone, it's really nice to be back with you in these YouTube videos. We really expect you guys to complete all the assignments that have been assigned to you guys. They're extremely important, okay? So please complete all of them. If they are being asked to be completed in the student book, in the workbook, in the FCE book, or also in your notebooks, okay? All of these assignments will be checked as soon as we go back to school, okay? So please work on all of them. Now, today we have some things to cover. So today's activities, the first thing that we're going to do, guys, is to check the homework activities. These were some assignments on the workbook, okay? The reported speech grammar part on workbook. This is going to be checked with by teacher Rafa with you guys, okay? So please have your workbook ready. Now, today we're going to be talking about verb patterns. Now, there's some specific verb patterns that go with reporting verbs. So we need to also know when to use them and how to use them. Now, remember, verb patterns are two verbs put together. The next thing that we're going to do is also we're going to check the reading part 1 for practice test 4 in the First for Schools book with teacher Laurita. This was assigned to you. This was left to you for homework on like the 20th of March, okay? So this has to be finished already. And remember, we assigned reading part 1, practice test 4, 5, and 6, the reading activities, right? So please have that ready. Now, today we're just going to check reading part 1 in the First for Schools book. And the last thing that we're going to do is a new vocabulary activity, okay? Vocabulary has become extremely important, guys, because when it comes to reading, we need to know specifically what all of those new words mean, okay? So there's also some activities regarding vocabulary. So let's get started now with teacher Rafa.
Hello guys, we're here to do your favorite thing in the world. Yeah, that's right, check your homework, and I'm gonna help you with that. So let's go ahead. Exercise 1. Match the adjectives with the nouns to form a compound adjectives. Note that one of the compound adjectives is non-hyphenate. Number 1. Well, mannered. It will be letter G. Number 2. Long, lasting. It will be letter J. 3. Heart, broken. Well, we all been through this, so this is not new for us. It will be letter E. 4. Two, faced. It will be letter A. 5. Like, minded. This, guys, it has two possible answers that is minded, and as you can see, it repeats itself. Letter C and letter I are minded, both of them. So let's go. Number 6, deep, rooted. It will be letter H in this case. Number 7, world, white, letter F. Number 8, open, minded, or white. As you can see, guys, the number 8 is also has two possible answers, that it could be letter C or letter F. It means almost the same. Number 9, highly respected, as the teachers, right? And the last one, number 10, cost effective. It will be letter B. Let's go with the article. In this case, guys, I hope you already read the whole article, because on this one I'm only gonna give the answer. So the exercise says, read the article and choose the best summary. Letter A. The cultural assault of Western influences will severely weaken other cultures. Letter B. Globalization continues a long tradition of cultural connections, but at a faster pace. Letter C. Countries like Brazil that have a mix of civilization will dominate the world culture. Letter D. Many cultures will be unrecognizable as new. Global culture gets more powerful. In this case, guys, it will be letter B. globalization continues a long tradition of cultural connections, but at a faster pace. Let's go with the exercise 3. It says, complete the statements with one or two words from the article. The article, it will be this one that we are watching right here. So, let's go with number 1. Changes in politics, business, health, and entertainment all fall under the umbrella of globalization. Number 2. Teenagers all over the world are one of the powerful engines driving the new global culture. Number 3. Commercial and cultural connections are nothing new. Humans have been making them for centuries. Number 4. A basic truth is that goods, people, and ideas move. At the same time, cultures change. Number 5. Alvin Toffler's first book, Future Shock, was a bestseller and very influential around the world. Number 6. Toffler says that in our current world, knowledge-based economies will dominate the others. And the last one, Toffler is optimistic that countries can still have a unique culture based on their core culture. And for the last exercise, guys, number 4, it says read the article again and answer the questions. Number 1, in paragraph 1, the word merging is closest in meaning to, in this case it would be letter A, coming together. Number 2, which of the following can be inferred from the statement in paragraph 2 that globalization is a reality, not a choice? Letter D, people opposed to globalization need to accept its reality and deal with it. Number 3, according to paragraph 2, what is one example given of the change in the 80s? And will be newspapers. Number 4, in paragraph 4, what do some social scientists fear could result from globalization? It will be letter D. Number 5, in paragraph 4, the word wave is closest in meaning to a movement. Number 6, what word does Toffler use in paragraph 4 to describe industrial economies? Smokestack. Number 7, which of the following can be inferred from Toffler's comment that you can have a unique culture made of your core culture, but you'll be the Chinese of future, not of the past? In this case, it would be letter C. Unique cultures will survive based on their central values. Okay, guys, this is all. I hope you have get at least half of the exercise right, and if not, you need to keep practicing, guys. Okay? So, see you guys. I hope we can see us back soon. So, goodbye.
Okay, so today we're going to be reading about people who have fought discrimination. Now, do you know what discrimination is? Have you ever suffered any type of discrimination? What is it? Discrimination is the act of making an unfavorable distinction based on the group, a class, or a category to which people are perceived to belong, right? As you can see in this image, we have different types of people, and all of them can suffer any type of discrimination, maybe based on their skin color, on how tall they are, on how short, on any physical disabilities, on different things, right? There's lots of discrimination that we can all suffer, right? Now, we should try to avoid all this, right? Because it's not pleasant for whoever is suffering discrimination. Guys, first of all, I would like for you to make a list in your notebooks and think about this question. why does inequality persist up to now? It's already 2020 and we still suffer from inequality. There's a lot of people who are treated unequal, right? So think about three things that you think are still the factors that inequality still exists. Think about them, write them down please in your notebooks, and we'll continue then. Please pause the video while you write. Please write those 3 ideas. Okay, so now thinking about the 3 ways of how inequality still persists, maybe the 3 most common answers can be racism. There's still a lot of racism in this world, right? Even in our country, guys, when we see someone that is not from the place we are from, we discriminate that person, right? We treat them differently. That is also racism. Now, based on money, right? On social classes, if someone is wealthy, if they have more money, if they have a better, electronic device, there's a lot of things that money can do and can still provide inequality, right? And probably last but not least, and sadly, gender is still one of those factors, right? Especially in our country. And there's a lot of things that have been done to try to eliminate that gender inequality factor that we have in our society. Okay, now talking about gender, do you know any famous women that have been fighting to be treated equal as men? It's something that just happened recently all around the world, right? Women protested and tried to obtain their rights of equality, of to be treated equal. And of course that exists, but there's still some things that have to be done, right? Now, if we look at our books, guys, on page 98, please open up your student books on page 98. We have an image there. It says Iceland was the first European country to elect a female president. Vigdis Finnbogadóttir was elected in 1980, right? And I think here in Mexico, well, I'm sure that in Mexico we still haven't had any female presidents, none whatsoever. The United States hasn't had it either, and probably the closest, I mean, to in this case in the US, the first president, the first African American president was Barack Obama, right? But they still haven't had any female presidents. Okay, so today that's what we're going to be talking about. But guys, before we actually get to all of this, I want to mention that we have been talking a lot about reported speech. And well, many reporting verbs, let's think of all the reporting verbs like said, told, asked, suggested, right? So most of those reporting verbs are followed by specific grammatical patterns, and it's helpful to recognize these verbs and the patterns. So today we're going to be talking about patterns after reporting verbs, okay? Now, let's think about this a little. If I were to begin a sentence about a government's intention to enact a new legislation, I might say, the government intends. So, what word would you expect to hear next? To, right? That's correct. And what verb form begins with to? Right, an infinitive verb, right? So we will have to say the government intends to create a new law. And the verb pattern that we have here is intends to create. Okay? So please pay attention to that. There's a lot of, and we have already talked about this in class, but today we're also going to continue talking about verb patterns. It's something really easy, such as we never say I'm going to listen music, right? We say I'm going to listen to music, right? That's a verb pattern. We cannot say I'm going to listen, right? Or all those verb patterns that we have discussed already in class. So today, that's what we're going to be doing, guys. Now, on exercise number 1, it says to look at the grammar box and match the patterns and sentences 1 through 6 with the examples A through F that have the same pattern. So let's go ahead and read sentences A through F in that blue box together. Letter A says, deciding to join a particular group offers young people the opportunity to explore who they are. B, many Goths resent being stereotyped as sad or angry. C, some claim that the roots of Goth can be found in the 19th century literary classics. D, there's a worldwide community out there just waiting to assure you that you belong. E, it allows them to start defining themselves outside of their immediate family circle. And F, it can also attract abuse and bullying of those who insist on challenging social norms. Okay, so these were some sentences that we read in the article in the previous page, but now we have to match these sentences to the rules in exercise number 1. Okay, so let's look at the rule number 1. It says verb plus the infinitive with to. For example, the government intends to introduce new laws to tackle the problem. Okay, what would be another sentence from sentences A through F that follow that same rule? A verb that is followed by an infinitive with to. Okay, which one would it be? It would be letter A, right? Deciding is a verb, then we have to, and then we have a verb pattern. Well, a verb which is join, right? The verb in infinitive. Okay, so what we're going to do next, guys, you're going to answer numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Please pay attention to those verb patterns, and we're going to check them together, okay? Please read them carefully, pause the video, and when you're finished, play it again. Okay, so let's go ahead and check them together. Number 2, we have verb plus someone plus infinitive with to. Okay, so we have an example. I reminded you, that would be the someone, you all, that would be the someone, I'm sorry, to bring in your permission slips. Okay, now, therefore the someone is the subject, right? So which sentence from A through F would be an example for rule number 2? That would be letter E, right? It allows them to start defining themselves, outside of their immediate family circle. So the first verb we have is allows. That is the first verb, right? And then the subject or the someone would be them, and then we have an infinitive with to, which would be to start. Good. Now, what about number 3? We have verb plus preposition plus ing. We have an example. They apologize for doing what they did. Okay, so what would be an example sentence from A through F? We need a verb plus a preposition plus ing. The answer would be letter F, right? F, and it says it can also attract abuse and bullying of those who insist on challenging social norms. So the verb is insist, then we have a preposition which is on, and then we have the verb in ing which is challenging. Now what about number 4? We have verb plus that and a clause. So she argued that things really need to change. Okay, so what would be the example sentence? It would be letter C, right? Some claim that the roots of the Goth can be found in the 19th century literary classics. Okay, so what would be the verb there? We have claim, right? Claims that the roots of Goth can be found in the 19th century. Excellent. What about the next one? Number 5. We have verb plus another verb with ing. An example would be he denied answering the question. So let's think about the example sentences. Which of them would fit that rule or would go with that rule? It would be letter B, right? Many Goths resent being stereotyped as sad or angry. So we have resent being. Good. What about number 6? We have the verb plus someone plus that in the clause. He promised me that he'd never do anything like that again. So the only one we have left is letter D, but let's pay attention to that, to letter D. There's a worldwide community out there just waiting to assure you that you belong. So the verb would be assure, the someone would be you, then we have that, and then the clause, which is you belong. Excellent. Very good. So guys, just remember that after there's some verbs that cannot stand by themselves. We need another verb that follows it, right? And these are called verb patterns. There's verbs that go together and that how can I say it? They stick together. You cannot have one without the other to express something you want to say. Okay, guys, but let's move on to page 142 and 143. Okay, 142 and 143. At the very bottom of page 142, we have this grammar reference, and it says patterns after reporting verbs. Notice the patterns that often go with particular verbs. The first one we have is verb plus infinitive with to. So guys, it is important that we know which verbs go with which rule. In this case, we have agree, arrange, claim, decide, intend, offer, pretend, promise, refuse, and threaten. Okay? For example, agree. I agree to clean my room. I arranged to visit my family. I claimed to have visited the museum, right? Or I decided to buy a television. Okay, now what about verb plus the verb in ing? We have admit, avoid, consider, continue, deny, imagine, resent, recommend, and suggest. Okay, admit, eating in the restaurant. I avoid buying unnecessary things. I consider standing 3 hours is tiring. I continue sleeping 6 hours or 8 hours a day. I deny I deny cleaning my room. Now what about the next one? Verb plus that and the clause. We have acknowledge, announce, argue, claim, confess, declare, deny, insist, recommend, and state. Okay, so let's have an example. It says acknowledge that they came to class, or I acknowledge her for her work. I announced them as soon as they arrived. I argued that wasn't the correct answer. She claimed that she went to Paris. They confessed that they stole the lunch. It was declared that we couldn't go to school for more than a month. Okay. Now, what about the next one? We have verb plus someone plus that and the clause. Okay, we have assure, convince, notify, persuade, promise, remind, tell, and warn. Okay, I assure, that is a verb, I assure you that I'm going to come back. I convinced them that wasn't the best option. I notified my students that there was homework on YouTube. I persuaded my sister that that wasn't a dress to wear for the party. She promised him that she was going to love him for the rest of her life. Okay, those are some examples. Now we have verb plus someone plus infinitive with to. For example, advise, ask, encourage, force, invite, persuade, remind, tell, urge, and warn. Okay, so I advise you to eat healthy. I asked the doctor to give me some pills. I encouraged students to do their work. I forced my dog to run with me. I invited my friends to have dinner. Okay. Now the next one we have is verb plus the preposition plus ing. For example, we have accuse somebody of, admit, confess to, apologize for, blame somebody for, criticize somebody for, forgive somebody for, insist on, thank somebody for. For example, I accuse somebody of stealing my money. I admitted to what is it? Let's think of one. I admit to no, we cannot use it. Let me think of a correct example, guys. I admitted to buying a great t-shirt, okay? Or confess to stealing something. I apologize for forgetting my books at home. Blame somebody for copying on an exam. Criticize somebody for wearing funny clothes. Forgive somebody for insulting my family. Insist on having dinner together. Thank somebody for bringing some tacos. Okay. That was kind of long, right? But I wanted to give you some examples of how to use these rules. Okay, as you can see, they're not difficult, but they're rules that we have to follow. Okay, so I would strongly recommend for you guys to pay attention to these verbs and to follow the rules. I know that all of you already do so because this is something that is very common for us to do, but we do not know that there's a rule that we have to use, okay? But in this case, we now know that there is a rule, so please follow it, okay? Now, guys, on page 143, we have exercise number 3, which says, complete the second sentences so that they have a similar meaning to the first. Use 2 to 5 words, including the correct form of the verb in bold. Okay, so before we get started with this, let's read the instructions clearly. Okay, again, this is something similar to the FCE exam, but here we have to use 2 to 5 words. Okay, that is the same as the FCE exam, but now the other instruction says including the correct form of the verb in bold, which means that you're going to modify the verb. Okay, the verb doesn't necessarily have to remain the same. Okay, so be careful with this, do not get confused. Let's do number 1 together. It says, my mom said I should write to the TV company and complain about it. So the sentence in the written form would be, my mom suggested writing to the TV company to tell them how I felt. Okay, and if we go back to the patterns after reporting verbs, if we find suggest is verb plus ing, so suggested writing, right? Let's do number 2 together. It says, they said that they meet me to explain the decision. So after I complained, they blank me and explained their decision. So they agree. Let's look for agree. As you can see, agree is the first verb in verb plus infinitive with to. So this sentence is in past, right? They said that they meet me to explain the decision. So that's in past. After I complained, so the verb has to be in past. They agreed to what? We know that it's to. The same verb that is used in number 2, agreed to meet. Okay, meet to explain their decision. Excellent. So guys, what you're going to do, you're going to complete numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 by yourselves. Read them carefully, and then we're going to check them together, okay? Please pause the video while you work, and then we'll check them together. Okay, so let's continue with number 3. It says, I felt terrible for what I said, so I wrote to say sorry. I wrote them a letter. We have apologize. So let's look for apologize. Where's apologize in the table? Let's look for it. I can't find it. Sorry, guys. Okay, so it's verb plus preposition plus ing, right? Apologize for. So I wrote them a letter. Apologizing, right? For such awful things. Because we already have 4. So we know that the verb is with, well, in this case, we have wrote is a verb. Wrote them is a subject. And then we have a clause, a letter. So that would be, I wrote them a letter apologizing. That would be with ing. Okay? Now, what about the next one, number 4? Of course, they reject all accusations and claim that they're in the right. So naturally, they blank anything wrong. Naturally, let's look for deny doing anything wrong. The verb is with ing. Verb plus ing. What about number 5? The goal of the rule was prevention of discrimination. The rule what? Was intended to prevent discrimination. Number 6. There has been a lot of pressure on the school to change its dress code. The school, what is it? It says has been, so we need to use the same structure, guys. Has been, then we have to use urge, but in past because it's present perfect, has been urged to change its dress code. Good. What about number 7? He knew what the rules were, but he decided to ignore them. He basically just what? It's in past, basically just refused to obey the rules. Number 8, they have an employment policy that prioritizes total gender equality. So the school insists on employing an equal number of male and female teachers. Okay, excellent, guys. I think this is kind of clear to all of us, but we need to learn the verb patterns, the reporting verbs followed by the verb, okay? Good. Okay, so let's move on to number 2, and it says to work in pairs and decide which patterns in activity 1 these verbs use. Some verbs use more than one pattern. So we have acknowledged, be blamed, persuade, advise, convince, pretend, agree, imagine, state, be accused, invite, and suggest. Okay, so let's look at these rules. They're the same rules that we went over right now. So we need to place the verbs in the box in the correct category. Okay, for example, which verbs would go with verb plus the infinitive with to? We have two verbs, right? We have agreed and pretend. So they agreed to buy pizza for everyone, or they pretend to run for president. Okay, so guys, what you're going to do now, you're going to complete numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Remember that these verbs can be used more than once, okay? They can follow different patterns, so don't worry, okay? Take a couple of minutes, pause the video if necessary. It is necessary. Pause the video and then play it again once you finish. Okay, so we already have number 1, which is agreed and pretend. What about for number 2? We have the verb plus someone plus infinitive with to. So that would be advise, convince, invite, and persuade. I advise someone to buy this. I convince my mom to prepare lunch. I invite my dad to come with me. Okay, now what about the next one? Verb plus preposition plus ing. We have advise against and the verb in ing, agree to and the verb in ing, be accused of and ing, and be blamed for with ing. Okay, advise against eating pizza at night. I agree to preparing lunch for everyone. Okay, now what about the next one? Verb plus that and the clause. So that would be acknowledge, advise, agree, imagine, pretend, state, and suggest. So I acknowledge that she was the best student. I advise her to sleep early. We agreed that was the best book to buy. We imagined that we were back at school. Okay, now verb plus ing. So that would be also acknowledge, advise, imagine, and suggest. I acknowledge having the best grades. I advised eating healthy for a month. I imagine carrying a baby. I suggest having lunch before 3 p.m. Okay, now we have verb plus someone, that in the clause. So that would be advise, convince, and persuade. For example, I advised them that doing their homework was the best thing to do. Convinced her to, I convinced her that that dress fit her perfectly for the night, and persuaded them that coming to class was, or watching the videos was important. Okay, so hopefully guys there are no questions on this. These are just words that we need to learn by heart. These are things that we have to know. Okay, now moving on to exercise number 3 on page 98, it says to choose the correct options. So we have to read this text and we have to circle which option is the best option. Let's do the first one together. Many governments have been criticized of and for turning a blind eye to racism. So we already know the answer, right? Have been criticized for turning a blind eye, right? Okay, so guys, please take a couple of minutes, complete the rest, numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we'll check them after you finish, please. Okay, now, number 1 we said was for, right? Number 2, some have even been accused of encouraging it when it suits them. However, the Bolivian government recently announced announced that it's launching an app designed to encourage citizens that they should report to encourage citizens to report any incidents of racism or discrimination that they encounter. The app is called No Racism. Reports can be submitted 24 hours a day. The government has promised to respond to all complaints and take legal action where appropriate. Right, guys, as you can see, this is a piece of cake, right? Okay, so just remember, if necessary, go over the verb patterns on the grammar reference section. Okay, so moving on to exercise number 4, it says to complete the report with the correct forms of the verbs, add prepositions where necessary. Okay, for example, number 1 says, it was recently announced that Iceland, and the verb we have to use is be, now the best place in the world to be female. So Iceland, what is it? It was recently announced. So we have announced that. So which is a verb that follows? A verb in infinitive, right? So announced that Iceland is now the best place in the world to be female. Okay, so guys, please take a couple of minutes to complete the rest, and we'll check them after you finish. Okay, so let's continue. However, young Icelandic women have previous generations to fight for their rights. Who have to thank? So what do we need after thank? We need a preposition, right? And then the verb goes in ing. Thank for fighting for their rights. On October 24th, 1975, fed up with their status as second-class citizens, 90% of all women in the country refused what? We need to, right? To work. Their goal was to remind men that the success of the nation, we have remind men, would be the remind is the verb, then we have the subject, or the subject, that the success of the nation depended on women, and to urge them, what do we need after urge? To, right? Urge them to accept greater equality. They threatened continue their general strike until changes were made. They threatened. So after threat, we need to, right? They threatened to continue until changes were made. Men listened, and within 5 years, the country had become the first to elect a female president. Vigdis Finnbogadóttir. Iceland can now claim to have one of the highest proportions of female politicians, over 40% in Europe. In the spring of 2017, a law was passed requiring employers to prove that their companies are free from gender-based salary discriminations. Excellent. Okay, guys. So, what we're going to do next, it says to work in pairs. You're going to do this individually. It says to look at the ideas for tackling gender inequality and discuss. So we have three things to discuss or to write down. How they might change things, which you think are good ideas and why, other ways in which things could be improved. Okay, so we have A, encourage stores to stop selling toys aimed at either boys or girls. B, demand that companies employ an equal number of female and male bosses. C, insist on mothers and fathers getting equal amounts of parental leave when they have children. D, advise schools to ensure that both boys and girls do school subjects such as cooking and woodwork. E, force schools to have equal numbers of men and women in photos on the walls. And F, persuade parents to discuss images of men and women in the media with their children. Okay, all of them seem pretty cool, right? Nice ideas that here in Mexico I think we still don't have, right? So what you're going to do, guys, in your notebooks, you're going to make a chart like the one here, and you're going to complete it for each of the ideas, okay? So for idea A, encourage stores to stop selling toys aimed at either boys or girls. How can that be changed? Maybe at home, right? Stop stereotyping toys. Dolls are not only for girls, cars are not only for boys, right? Is it a good idea? Why? Maybe you think it is. State why. And if not, also say why. And how can this be improved, okay? So you're going to make this chart. For each of the ideas, you're going to complete the three questions there, okay? This goes in your notebooks, okay? And it's homework, guys, okay? So please take time to do this and do it consciously, okay? There's no time, hurry. You don't have to hurry up, okay? Good. Now, the last activity that we do in our student book is exercise number 6. And it says to complete the short news article with the correct forms of these pairs of linked verbs. So we have accuse and discriminate, deny and be, agree and examine, force and change, decide and make, insist on and have. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this first one together. It says, a 13-year-old girl in South Africa has been blank schools 3 times because of her hair. Has been what? We know that the structure is present perfect, therefore the verb has to be in past, right? Past participle. So which verb can we use? Based on the context. A South African girl has been forced to change school 3 times because of her hair. That's kind of crazy, right? But here in Mexico, still we have something similar with boys, right? If boys have long hair, they're still rejected in schools, right? So guys, you're going to read this. You're going to read this and complete it, and then we're going to check it together, okay? So take some time to do this, and then we'll check. Okay, now number 2 says Sulaika Patel has what? Her current school. Has accused her current school, Pretoria High School for Girls, of what? Of that's also with number 2, right? Of discriminating against black students throughout its uniform policies that insist on students having a neat conservative appearance. Angry that this was being interpreted as meaning that she couldn't wear her hair in her natural Afro style, she launched a silent protest, which attracted the attention of the national media. The school, we can use 2, right? denied or denies being discriminatory in any way, but has agreed to examine its policies before deciding whether or not blank to make any significant changes. Okay, excellent. So if we look at the image on page 99, it says Suleika Patel and her classmates are fighting for rights that go beyond the size of the hair. They're standing up against racism. So guys, what would you do if this happens to you? What would you do? Okay, so pretty much that's everything for working on a student book today. But now, guys, your homework for next class, for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, would be workbook pages 92 and 93. All of these exercises regard verb patterns that we saw today, okay? So if necessary, go back to the grammar reference, go back to our student books pages 98 and 99, so that you know exactly what is expected, okay? Know what words to use. Okay, so we're going to assign this as homework, and next class we're going to check it together. Okay, great.
Guys, we're going to go over reading part 1 from your practice test number 4. So first of all, let's read together. Ecotourism, sustainable for all. Background. In the last decade of the 20th century and the first few years of the 21st century, ecotourism was regarded as a luxury that few could afford. It meant luxurious hotels which used organic products, ranging from organically grown cotton to toilet paper, which had not been chemically bleached. It used expensive solar-powered systems and other modern technologies which conserved energy, whilst at the same time providing costly, quality services. All that came to an end when, like most other industries, ecotourism was severely hit by the recent economic crisis. However, this section of the holiday industry is now showing signs of recovery by changing its approach to include anything from conservation-based adventure programs to high-end luxury hotels. Ecotourism is managing to increase the number of customers and therefore improve its chances of success in the tourism industry. Current trends. According to Ron Erdman, Director of the Research and the Office of Travel and Tourism Industries, the number of people taking part in environmental or ecological travel started rising again after 2007. Ecotourism has grown to mean much more than just luxury bungalows or tents in unspoiled areas, and it now focuses on supporting local communities, a model of holiday that considers both travelers and local communities. One of the leaders in ecotourism is the country of Costa Rica, where almost 49% of the 2 million visitors in 2010 took part in ecotourism activities during their stay, bringing an income of nearly $1 billion to the country. The manager of La Barrios, one of the most successful green resorts in Costa Rica, explained that one of the main benefits of ecotourism is that it protects areas from the sort of damage that ordinary non-eco tourists usually cause. Ecotourism worldwide. Destinations like the Galapagos Island, Ecuador, Nepal, Bhutan, and Patagonia are also seeing an increase in the numbers of tourists that visit them, hoping to have a holiday full of natural beauty. These areas are famous for their unspoiled surroundings and rare flowers and animals, and for the perfect landscapes and the unique architecture which have remained unchanged for centuries. Trekking and backpacking are among the cheapest options in some of these locations, but there are other much more luxurious and costly choices as well. The director of the Safari Service, Roar Africa, Deborah Kalmeyer, says, "Our clients often spend up to $30,000 per person for a personal African adventure that's environmentally friendly." Her company shares the aim of its partners organization, Sinkita, a tourism operation whose purpose is to protect wildlife and its habitat, as well as to prevent the illegal killing of animals for their skins, meat, horns, or fur. The future. In the opinion of Steve Case, who who is also working on the project of Costa Rica. The future of ecotourism lies in the cooperation between the local people and the hoteliers. He also believes it is essential that the impact of waste on the resort is neutralized, either by recycling or by reusing it, so that the location can retain its beauty and character, and the tourism industry can continue. Bruce Poon Tip, director of Gap Adventures, agrees with him and adds that the goal is to help local people, and that is the reason why his company uses small-scale accommodation, local means of transport, and businesses owned by the locals in every area they visit. Conclusion. It certainly seems as if ecotourism is here to stay. More and more travelers are aware of the impact that traveling can have on the environment and are demanding that measures should be taken to reduce the damage or even reverse it. Now let's answer the questions. For number 1, what do we learn in the first paragraph about ecotourism? A. It was only for wealthy people. Number 2, what does all that refer to in line 11? Expensive green holidays, letter D. Number 3, how is ecotourism trying to overcome the financial crisis? Letter B, it has started catering for many different kinds of customers. Number 4, what is one of the advantages of ecotourism? Letter D, some areas remain unspoiled. Number 5, what do travelers expect when they visit places like the Galapagos Island and Nepal? A, to find places undisturbed by modern civilization. Number 7, rural Africa and Singita work together to, letter C, protect animals from hunting, which is against the law. Number 7, what should be done to ensure that ecotourism has a future? Letter B, local economies should be involved. Number 8, what is this report mainly seeking to inform readers about? Letter B, general trends in ecotourism. Okay guys, for next class, please answer practice test 4 on reading part 2. Now we're going to review together practice test 4, reading part 3, vocabulary words. So get ready. What categories are each of these groups of words? We have several answer options. We have adverbs, phrases, phrasal verbs, adjectives, nouns, and verbs. The words are grouped, the vocabulary words are grouped within these categories. So fill in the blank space. Okay guys, here we have two columns. We have vocabulary words and we have their definitions. So what I want you to do is match the vocabulary words with the correct definition. For example, number 1, we have structure, and vocabulary word, the definition is building. And afterwards, I would like you to generate a sentence with each of these words. So we have the structure of our school is quite solid, as an example. In this other one, we have our following list of vocabulary and definitions. For number 1, the word is stable, and the definition is steady. And the sentence is the stock market has remained stable throughout the year. So please do the same thing as in the other exercise. Right, here we have a short story, and the instruction says, please fill in the gaps of this short story using the following vocabulary words. We have a sewage system, drain, leaned, steeple, hazard, and skyscraper. So please read the story and fill in the blanks. Okay guys, so now remember that you can either print out, fill in, and paste these activities, or copy them on your FCE notebook. We will check the answers next class. See you. Take care.
Okay guys, now this is the end of today's class. We really hope you guys didn't have any difficulties during this video. Please try completing all the assignments. Remember, there's some homework for you guys, your workbook. There's 2 pages that you have to complete, okay? And we're going to check them next class. Guys, please stay home. Please complete all the assignments, be responsible, and stay safe, which is the most important thing. Stay safe and stay home. Goodbye. See you next video.